All right, I believe we are live. Today I'm just going to be making an interesting, I don't know, storefront. I've done this before as a full regular tutorial, but a lot of things have changed since then. I plan on doing another polished tutorial about doing this soon. But for the most part, now I'm just going to do this in a live stream, and hopefully you guys can pick up on what I'm doing as I go, and I don't skip anything. So first, I'm just going to add in a new image, and with the new Blender, of course, you go to Add for this, and Image, and then you add it as a mesh plane as opposed to the old images as planes. So I'm going to come over here and try to find my folder. So let's just go in here and let's just go into here, start looking. I've got a image right here that I want to use. So sorry, I've got a little bit of a cold still, only 7 or 8 days into that now. I'm gonna go here and turn on my material preview here. Blender's being a little slow this morning. And once that opens up, we'll be able to see the actual texture. So if you guys want, go ahead and comment over here to the side. Like and subscribe to my channel, of course. And I promise that all my videos do not have a cold sounding voice like, I've got a cold. And of course, Blender is taking forever for some reason. Not sure what's happening with that. Only in a live stream though. And just give this a minute. There we go. So now with that here, I'm going to look at it from the X axis, and I'm going to pull up the whole thing. I'm going to put the bottom corner of the building, not the entire image, but you see where this corner meets the ground level there, essentially. Put that there. I'm only going to be making the section here, not the little bits on the sides, just this central building part. And I may or may not go all the way up. It might just be this lower section down. Maybe. We'll figure that out. With that done now, something else, I'm not going to pull this whole thing out of just one out of the image as just one piece, because that can be problematic. I have a new way of doing this that kind of breaks it down and makes it make a lot more sense when you get into breaking it down, for that matter. So let's go ahead here, and with this, I'm trying to collect my thoughts. I'm going to go into edit mode just by hitting tab. And with that up, I'm going to go ahead and create a loop cut and pull it down. And you see how it's not stretching my image. I'll show you how to do that. Just right over here. I'm going to put this to the ground level. And right up here, you can see this says correct UVs. You want that checked on, and it'll keep it from stretching as it does what it's doing. I'm just going to map out the major breaks in this. So I'm going to go probably about to something like this. And it's funny because I believe I've actually done this image before. I've done this so much, I think I've already done this image. But I'm going to just move over and get the 4 main cuts here, like so. And now we have, those parts. And what's cool is we can come in here by switching to faces, and make sure you switch back to your other tool, the select tool. And I'm just going to select the faces I do not want. Like, we're not even going to worry about the street. I'm going to delete those and delete faces. And now we are left only with this building we want to work with. So that's good stuff. I'm still deciding if we're going to use this top piece or not. And I don't think so. I'm going to go ahead and just delete it for now. And we're left with this small building. And, I showed in the last video that you're going to go in here and mark out all your windows and all the pieces and blah, 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 and pull those out. And to some degree, yes. But there's a better way to handle all this, to where you don't have 1,000 loop cuts running through everything, and it just becomes very confusing. And the best way to deal with this is to break this up into larger pieces first. So what I'm going to do is come back in here to my loop cuts, and you're going to see that, you know, we have all this, these windows and blah, 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 and we do not have to chop all this up so small to get this to work. We're going to use the main pieces again. I'm just going to come up here to that edge, and now we have this top piece as a its own separate piece. Anything else, I think I'm just going to go ahead and, well, let's just get these side little bars trimmed out here, because those do run the full length. So you can see what I mean here by doing that. And then the one at the top, I think we can do as a separate one as well at this point. So with those mapped out this way, we can extract those. So I'm going to basically take all of these side and top pieces for the moment. You're like, well, what do you mean by that? Well, I'm showing you. Shut up. I'm kidding. We're going to take those and right click on them in edit mode, and we're going to go down here to separate selection. That becomes its own new object and cannot be affected by all the other cuts we're going to do. It's the genius part of this. So back in the object mode, you'll see that's its own piece. This is its own piece. So I hope that makes a lot more sense to you here, because this will allow us to do more cuts on just this piece without affecting these upright side pieces now. Which before I would just hack into it and slice it all up in the beginning and try to go through and pull things out, and it's just really confusing after a while. So what I want to do now is make another cut back in edit mode. I hit tab, and I'm going to make another cut below this one, but it's going to be for these upright side pieces. So we're going to come over here, and you can see it is cutting through this, but that's because these are not separated. So instead of doing that, let's go ahead and just select this top plane here, and we're going to right click and separate that one by selection. It is now its own piece as well. So we go back into object mode. We can see that's its own piece, this is its own piece, and this is now its own piece. So we're going to separate these uprights now. So back in, with that piece at the bottom selected, we're going to go back into edit mode, go back to our x-axis plane here, and I'm going to add a couple more of these loop cuts in here this way, but it's only affecting, you know, this section now. We're going to go and do the same here, and we're going to go ahead back to our face mode, and I'm going to select, whoops, I'm accidentally putting some loop cuts. Back to your selection mode there, we're going to select this one and this one, right click and separate those by selection. Those are now their own piece. So back in object mode, you can see we have this. Now they're together. We want them to be separate pieces, if you do anyway. We're going to come back into edit mode again and select just one of those. And now we're going to right click on that and separate it by selection. So now when you come back here into object mode, you'll see we have this piece, we have this piece, we have this piece, and so on, and then the main one. This is giving us a lot of leeway in how we're cutting everything up. So, and if you do this in the beginning, finding your largest, longest, whatever pieces that are going to be the least interrupted by slicing them up, this becomes a lot more easy. So right now we're going to go back into edit mode here. I'm going to add a few more loop cuts, like right through here, the bottom of that door. And instead of cutting everything else up again, we can put one right here though, actually at the bottom of these windows. But look what's going to happen. We're going to cut right through our door. So let's not do that yet. And I'm going to go ahead with that loop cut there, and I'm going to select this face, and we're going to say separate selection. Pretty simple stuff. And now we're left with this one, and you can jump in and out. I do jump in and out of object mode just so I can make sure nothing else is selected, and then we start working on the other pieces. Right now I think I'm going to work on the door frame. So going back into my x-axis there, I'm just going to add some more loop cuts, but this time, not the door. We're not worried about the door. I'm going to worry about the outside frame of it. because we don't want to cut through any part of the door. If we can help it, you can. It's not a big deal. But this helps us not, it helps us keep it as a separate piece. So now I'm going to go back to selection mode. We're going to select, any of these parts with our face mode like this, and we're going to say separate selection. I'm then going to select this one and separate selection. So we have 3 panels here. I hope this is making sense. If we go back into edit mode, you can see now we just have the door and these 2 panels here. And so we have to select those, separately, like this is this panel, this is this panel, this is the door, and so on. And it's a really, really good way to separate everything out, because it keeps you from having to make 1,000 loop cuts and making your stuff a lot more complex than it really needs to be. So as we get more detailed, obviously there will be more cuts, but not overlapping ones, which is great. So we can see these are 3 separate objects. We're going to have to make a loop cut at the top of each one of these. I probably should have done that all in one go prior, but this is where you get practice with this after a while as to what should probably happen when. But you can always do it later. I'm just going to throw it in right here, and then we can select that face back with our select tool, and we can go separate selection. Same difference. Jump back into our object mode, do the same for the center one, jump back in, and once again pull up a slice there, and back in our face select and select tool, select it and separate selection. So you just keep going through and doing this over and over, and eventually it becomes kind of second nature. You're getting a little bit of a rhythm. But this chopping up method is so much better than what I had showed you in that previous video. So I don't apologize, because, well, I didn't do anything wrong in the other video. It works very well, but this one's going to give you an even better way of doing it. So we separate that selection. So now those 3 have separated pieces. You can see when we go back into object mode, we have this guy, this one, this one, this one, and so forth. And if we focus on just, say, one of the window areas now, since that top is cut loose, we can come right here to the edge of the glass on this. And so if I tab in, and I'm thinking here we're going to want to cut this away first. Make sure that, we don't try to cut through the glass or cut the glass out and then having to cut through all this other. It's best to do it this way. So we're going to go ahead and cut that. And then I'm going to come here to the bottom section here, and I believe this is completely separated at this point, so I can just come in, at least what I want to be, separate that by selection. You're just going to want to do this for each part of your model you're working on here. So now with that, we can come back. I'm going to just make sure we only select it on the top. And we're going to add some loop cuts this way. Let's just do the upright first. That works for me. And it looks like we have a couple, but let's worry about that after the fact. I just want to kind of get the main bulk of this done, like so. This will allow us to put, to pop the glass out of that. So back over here, we're going to select with our select tool. We're going to grab the glass and we're going to say separate selection. And we're going to do the same thing to the other. And keep moving on. So let's try the door here now. I'm going to go back into object mode for this. We've got a few things to separate out with the door. Sorry, I keep clicking on the wrong stuff. Looks good. And let's go in here and tab into edit mode. And I'm going to jump and cut this bottom piece out first. And let's go ahead and do the next one. You can do them like this. And then what I'm going to go and do is just grab and select just any piece of this that is one of the parts that are cut, like say just the upper part or just the lower part here. We can go separate selection. We can even click on this one now, separate selection if we want to. I'm going to leave that one as part of this one. And then this here, we're going to go ahead and separate that as a selection. Go ahead back into object mode, click it, go back in. You see how this works. I'm going to make sure that we separate our door completely from the rest there. And then we can come over here and select just the door, separate that one by selection, in and out again. Once we're back in, of course, now we can start cutting out what we need for the window. And I think that's probably the best way to do this, is just to separate it from here and from here. I'm not going to worry about this little gap here. And once that is separated, now we can grab our selection tool, grab this, go ahead and separate this by selection. And you can always put stuff back together if you don't like it separated the way it is later. So with that done, let's jump back into object mode, select just the window section, back into edit mode again, and now we're just going to do these uprights. See, normally though, these would go all the way through the door. And now by doing it this way, we only have these uprights around that piece of glass. And I personally think that's a way better way of handling this. Personally, let's just go back here to my plane. I keep having to switch that out. And this, we're going to separate the glass by selection. So when we go back to object mode, you're going to see, yes, we have the glass piece. We have these two uprights that are one piece. Doesn't matter right now. This is a piece, and that is with that one. But see, what we can do is come in here and select that piece and those uprights, and now we can join those together, and now we have one piece for the door, one piece for the glass, one piece for this guy. You see how I've done that. We have this piece of glass, we have this section that we now can add to that one, and we can even add this one in now, so we can come back here and join those. So now we have one model, piece for that. It's just a much better way of doing it. I hope that makes a lot of sense to you guys. And we have this guy at the bottom, and what we're going to wind up doing with it is probably deleting this little strip, because it's just a dark strip, and you can just come in here and do that, and it works great, because we're going to wind up extruding all this out anyway. So now on to this final window. I'm just going to come over here, and I know it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense since everything is still flat, but you're about to see some magic here. Once that is done, let's go ahead back into edit mode and start cutting this one up now with our loop cuts. I'm just going to grab the loop cut tool that would help pull this down to the bottom of that. We're going to go and do a few more of these just where I know they need to go, and once those are done and we hit the select, we can separate this one out. We can even separate this one out for now if we don't know how we're gonna handle that. And we're gonna go back into our loop cut tool here, and we can jump in and out of object mode again, and I'm just gonna pull this one over and grab this and pull it over, and you see how much faster this can go. Now you're like, well, what about this little sign area here? Well, I'm about to show you something kind of cool with it too. With that selected, let's go back to our selection. We're going to take this window and separate it by selection. Back into object mode. Now again, I'm going to come in here and find the pieces of this window like so, and I'm just going to put all those back together. We probably could have left that one out in the middle, but we didn't do it over here, so let's go ahead and just put them all back together. And not the glass. We don't want the glass, so let me just do this one more time. Waste your day. And we're going to click on right click join. We can do Control J for that also. And now we have the glass separate. Something we can do with this glass, which is kind of cool, is back on the front, we're going to go back into our edit mode, and I'm going to actually cut out this sign here. We can use the knife tool if we didn't want to do loop cuts, and just click where we want the corners of it to be. You're like, I don't understand how this is going to work, but you will. I'm just going to go here like so and like so, and you can make this as wonky as the actual original, however it needs to be. We're going to have this separate piece once you press enter, and yes, it's going to make that funky little slant because that's just the way that works. But we can come in here, grab this piece, right click, separate selection, and I'm going to come back into object mode real quick and show you this is a separate piece. This is a separate piece. If we hide this one real quick, just to show you there is a hole in here. But we can also get rid of that hole again if we wanted to. But I probably should have honestly made a duplicate of this window to do that with. So let's back up just a little bit, undo my awesome work there, and let's make a duplicate of the window. This will be even better. We're going to select that window, Shift D, and then click where it's at to make sure it doesn't move. Now we're going to take our knife tool in here and cut that apart however we need it on that duplicate window. And we're going to, yes, wind up deleting the leftover part of this glass. And then, of course, you can always go into Photoshop or something and I wonder why that's doing that. That is not what I did. It might be because they're so close together. But we're going to go back into Photoshop and clean up that, the main window texture. So with that, let's go ahead now here and select this little bit. We're going to select the remainder of that particular window and delete it. Faces. So now we are left with the main window. Let's just go back to the object mode. We have the window, and we have this other one. So if I take that one just for fun here, and I'm going to grab it and I push G, I'm going to push it back. You can see that nothing happened. I am wrong. Don't know how I am. Let's back this up just a little bit to where we still have our section here. What I'm trying to do is get this piece separate. Oh, we didn't separate it. So separate selection. That'll make that work. And then back in object mode, let's hope and pray I'm not wrong this time. And we're going to grab this separate section here. We are going to pull that out, and you can see it's a separate piece. We'll just need to paint this out in Photoshop is what I was getting at. Okay, with that, we also want to take all of our what do you call them? Gizmos, and we want to right click and set origin to geometry so that we can, do that on every single piece to make sure it's in the right, spot. It's a little tedious, I realize, but it will make sense later as far as when you move stuff around. It's very necessary to have this set correctly. So origin to geometry, origin to geometry. Excuse me. It's been a heck of a time I never get sick. So set origin to geometry. I'm just hoping I'm not going to have a coughing fit while doing a live stream. So origin to geometry and so on and so on. Okay, that all looks good. Excuse me. Set origin to geometry. Same thing all the way around on these bigger sections as well. Origin to geometry. You get it, I hope. Let's do this one now. And then our main piece, I think, has already been done. Okay, so now the magic, if you can believe it. You've waited this long. It's actually going to be cool, believe it or not. What I plan on doing is something like this is completely replacing the insides of the store. It looks cool, but when you make your own, it will totally make all the difference to be able to do that. So this glass will actually be stripped completely clean of its texture for now. It'll have a brand new texture on it. The roughness obviously would come way down on that. And right now it's deciding to take a little break, I guess. And we would pull that down. This would become, I'm just gonna call this glass. And we don't even have to do what I'm doing. We can actually make an entirely new material here and just apply that, And I'm going to call this my glass. Oh, my glass. And, of course, in edit mode, I think I need to do it in edit mode, we can take my glass and assign it to that. And then, of course, and this will need to be UV'd as well. But back in object mode, we click on something else and we come down and we say, nope, use my glass for that. And also here, my glass, and so on and so on. Now we are going to lose any of the stickers on the windows unless, of course, it's that other one that we already made will be lost. But you just prepare for that like I just did with the other one. And in fact, let's find out where our little sticker is. It's somewhere in here. We'll find it as we go, though, for sure. I don't know exactly where that is at the very second. Right here, we can just pull that forward and our sticker will be back because that's the one we made specifically for this window. And you know, we're not really seeing shine on the window because we don't really have anything set for that. I'm just going to grab all these glass here. You can see the roughness come way down, and now we'll start to get some shine. If we wanted metallic, you know, a little bit in there, we could. You get it. Now we've got some reflection on that glass. So you're like, okay, but it still looks like a flat plane. Well, this is where we get to do the old thing we used to do and make it look the way we want. So first things first, what would be where? Well, this part here would definitely be out more than most. So we're going to tab back into edit mode. We're going to select that area and we're going to extrude that out to some degree so that can look like it rolls up into there. If we wanted to split this, we totally could split this now or later. So we just take another one of our loop cuts and just grab it and pull it down to about here. And now we can either push in or pull out this other section. I've noticed that sometimes when you push in it screws with textures, but we're going to do it anyway. So I'm just going to grab that face and just push that back in. But you have to extrude, folks, unless you want that slant. So you have to go with the extrusion method here. But see, now we're left over with these weird sides. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this one just out farther, and then you could shift the whole thing back in a bit later. Okay, so now we've got these parts that really should be out as well, easily done by just coming in to tabbing back into object mode, selecting that object now, because it is a separate object, wonderfully. And we're going to tap into edit mode, and we're going to extrude these faces as necessary. Such an easier way of handling everything, I think, if you notice. So now we've got that nice 3D effect. The insides of these we're going to fix really easily in the UV. It's just a matter of moving those around. It's a little tedious, but it's totally worth it. So once we get those bits done, we probably need to get the door and other parts. So we're going to tab back on object mode. That's the door. I want to do the uprights here first, though, because those are definitely out more than the door is a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and tab in edit mode, and we're going to pull these guys out to be farther out than the other. And then we're going to tab out of that and back into this one and tab into it, pull it out. Now, any of the extra adjustments you want to do on like, say, making this an actual corrugated piece, you totally can. Up to you. Like I said, everything can move and adjust at this point. However it needs to be done. I think we're still a little flat on some of this, but that's easily fixed. And what I mean by that is I don't think this surface is out enough, and we can move that out, or you can go ahead and adjust the extrusion by tabbing into edit mode, grabbing these faces again, and instead of extruding them, we will just move the face. Move your face out my face. And then this can, and see, we're on an extrude here, but we just want to be on a move, and that way we're just kind of pulling that out like an offset face command in other software that we've used. So that works well. We're going to tab back in. I'm going to kind of readjust this face. I don't think it's out enough. And you can move edges and everything too. It does not break anything to do that. You can see that one was off, so now I'm going to straighten it up just to keep stretching from happening. And that looks better. And then we can pull these other sides forward a little more to make these, of course you got to tab out and grab the correct objects to do that, but we tab back in, grab our faces now, and we can pull those more forward than it was so that those have a little more dimension. And yet again, you can always push stuff back as well. So I'm going to just come back in here. As long as we're not, I'm going to try to not extrude back, however, because that can, like I said, leave those hanging over edges that I kind of don't want to keep. And if we push this back and it comes loose of the rest of the thing, it's totally cool because, as you will see, we can always extend to the other edges back more. I'm going to put these back in here wherever we're going to want those about. But I'm talking about like the edges of all this other stuff. That's just a matter of coming in and selecting the objects you want pushed back more. And we're just going to tab in and only grab the edges. Like I said, not the faces, just the edges we want to pull back. If they stretch now, it doesn't matter because they're already going to be stretched because of that whole UV situation we're going to correct later anyway. So if I take these and just pull all that back, we are corrected now again. This just has a lot more freedom than doing it the other way I showed you guys. Okay, so with that, we can now bring out the main wall portion here. So I'm just going to tab out and grab, let's say, these sections. And I think that will be fine. And we're going to tab into them and now grab, oh, let's say, for fun, just these guys. And pull those forward by extruding them. We could shape these later. This is just a basic, kind of version of what we're trying to do here. So that all looks fine to me. We could make these a little more out if we wanted to. So I'm going to undo that and just grab all this frame to start with, because we're going to wind up making those little shelves farther out anyway. But to start with, let's get a little dimension on the frame, and then we can bring out the shelves the rest of the way that they need to be brought out, like that. They may not be that deep in real life, but it doesn't matter. We do what we want around here. And with that, now we have the door, and we do want the door to actually have like a full dimensionality on it. And the way we do that is tab back out, grab the door piece, tab back in, and we're going to grab all of its faces. Well, not that. We're going to grab, we don't want to move it, so we're going to grab it with the select tool. I'm just going to get all these dudes, and we're going to thicken it by extruding it just like we have everything else. Only we're going to go back this time, which that's okay in this particular case. And that's the thickness of the door. And the door will be its own separate piece eventually, which is cool. And then something like, say, this step, we're going to tab back out, go back into it. And we're going to tab into it, grab its face, and extrude it out however we need. I'm just going to make a single step basically with it. So that'll be fine. And so far so good. And then the windows, we're going to come back in here into object mode. I'm going to reposition the windows to be right at the level of the glass. We can make them thicker if we really want to, but I'm going to kind of leave them standard just as they are. The middle window here, though, I'm going to push back because there is a thickness to the door. I kind of want that recessed a bit like that. And then, of course, we need to take our little sign and make it essentially, and if we put this on the inside of the glass, believe it or not, it will appear as see-through once we get a glass material put on our windows. You'll be able to see it. And that's just with the The lighting turned on so far, not bad, not perfect yet. Look at it here in the material view. And we need to add like a glass-like material. What I'm going to do here, just for the sake of doing this, is just giving us just less of an alpha for now. That's not the way I would do this in the end, but you see you still have your reflections for the most part. You can see this. All right, now to correct these parts for the textures here, it's very simple. For one, we're going to take all of this texture, not the glass texture, because I think we can probably delete that one on all these pieces. Make sure that it's not on those. This one here, I think we can't, because I believe, yeah, that is our actual material. We're going to change the name of that one, however, to, let's just go ahead and pull that. Let's see if it just, we can change it here. We're going to call it wall, and we're going to take the roughness up on it because I don't want it to be slick. The metallic can stay down, etc., etc. IOR is fine. We want the alpha to be whatever the alpha is supposed to be. In fact, I don't care to leave the alpha on parts like this because it's just solid. So if we go into our shading tab and we just pull this to the side here, you can see the alpha, that we just disconnect that. It's not necessary for solid objects. So as you can see, we're going to come back over to the layout, and it doesn't look any different once we're in material preview. It looks absolutely the same. I'm going to move my render over here. It's on Eevee. I'm just going to click on ray tracing so that when we do go back into this view, we have a little more realistic view of what it's going to be. And something else I like to do is to just kind of come in here and add a ground level to this. So I'm just go to mesh, plane, and this just gives us a little bit of a, when we click on our rendered view, it gives us a little bit more of a realistic bounced light on everything and doesn't feel so weird. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and fix these parts I'm talking about. And let's say over here in the, we'll select the objects that we want to use here. So one at a time, I'm just going into UV editing mode. And something we wanted to do was to make sure that these guys unwrap correctly. Right now, they probably will not, because I think they're considered the standard cube projection possibly, or the plane projection that it was. These need to be UV mapped as cubic, so, or cube projection. So within edit mode here, we're going to scroll over and I'm going to select the X-ray, and I don't think we need that on, but let's just go ahead and go back to that. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna go ahead and do see-through here. I'm just going to come over and select all of these polygons that make up that part by selecting our select box tool. And now we've got these. You can see that those are correctly laid out here. The ones that aren't, though, those are going to be those side ones. So I'm just going to slide over again and get our material preview up, and you can see which ones are the bad ones. The ones on the side. So I'm just going to grab, let's say, that one, which is part of this object. Actually, all these are, now that I think about it. The ones, those side pieces, this side piece. We can actually go through and also hide our other object. Let's do that. Jump back into layout. I'm going to hide this guy by pressing H and just some of these other bits because they're just in the way right now. Let's just, with our select box tool, I'm going to hide everything. And you can see back over in our UV editing tab, that's what we're left with. And I'm just going to select these faces. And yes, you can Alt, Shift Alt, I believe, to select all those at the same time around that loop. But let's just do what I'm doing. And we're going to not select that back one. Just the ones on the edges, because those are the ones mainly giving us problems. Plus, this guy right here. Oh, not that one. This one here on the lower ledge right there. Okay, so that is everything that is off. So right now you can't even see where they are because they are turned on their side, and that's why they stretch. So if we if we click on those, we go up to UV and we go to unwrap and we click on cube projection. We now have these laid out in a cube projection form. So they are flat, just like this other piece is. If we want them to look like it, we just drag these islands over to the texture we want them to be on or look like. So I believe that one is at the bottom here. So when I move it around, you can see that that is moving there. And the way you get those to kind of lay out better is to just kind of go here in like the point mode, deselect everything, just grab the points you want by, I like to use this select box. And then we can hit the move tool here and just slide them over in X like that. And now they have a correct texture. Because it's at a different angle, you're not going to be able to tell if this, sits right or not. It's not the point anyway. So this one, let's say, yep, we want to fix that one. So once again, I'm just sort of, you can scale or whatever you want to do with these UVs, up to you. They all work the same way, just like regular polygons do. You can just pull this in now, and I can move this up, and you can see that that part on the bottom will now have that same look as that. And if you want it to be more, like this other piece, you can always scale it down to where it's only as narrow as that other one, if you are following me. And then now that piece will take on the texture of that piece. The ends are the same exact thing. I'm just going to grab all three of these as a single end. You can see those are selected here. When I go and select them, I can move them to where now they are, essentially the same. And you can move these around however, scale it, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to stick that one there because I like that having this rustier part toward the bottom, just like the rest of it does. The rust of it. Okay, and then I'm not going to worry about this because we may not see that wrap around here. If you wanted to, all you'd have to do is rotate this over to where you've got some of this in the top. Might as well show you. And I'm just going to rotate this around. We're going to have to scale it down quite a bit to get that arrangement or alignment with that part. You see, by aligning this, we're going to start getting this to be the same as the front. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, and it does involve scaling this appropriately. Probably only need to scale this part, the top part, to match mostly. So I'm just going to squish this a little more until this is about the same depth or close to. You get the idea though. Not perfect by a long shot, but if we also wanted to kind of try and fix some of that, you can just stretch the bottom of it. If you can see, just get that more appropriate as well. And then we can just take those and maybe adjust those out to be similar. There we go. Not exact, but close enough. And in the top, obviously the same. Just grab your faces and say, hey, that's nowhere near where they need to be. Well, that's why you do what we're doing. And I'm going to grab the islands here, selection. And we're going to size that down. Grab it, move it up, and we're done. We'll just do the other side now. So it's really simple. A lot of people get really thrown on UVs, and it's no different than what I'm showing you right here. So just grab this, grab it, move it up, however you want. We don't have to rotate this one, but just for the sake of doing it right, which that's unheard of, we're just going to grab these points now and kind of grab, put those where we think they should be, to some extent anyway. And just grabbing and moving the points, marquee selecting, grabbing and moving the points to where they're somewhat similar. Now we have a somewhat appropriately textured piece to this model. Now, it's not the whole wall. This is the tedious part. You have to kind of go back and get everything visible and do this to every single part until everything doesn't have the stretched side textures. It's just a matter of adjusting, like I said, that cube projection. It's everything. Thank you to Ian Hubert for that, because that's where I learned how to do that. He does that with most of his props. Just the cube projection. It's the best thing you can do to get this laid out well. And then of course go back in and throw in some bevels on your edges and whatnot, and there you will have it. So cool. Thanks for watching, guys.